Out of all the big animation studios, you wouldn't expect Pixar to have a movie that flopped, especially when they're still regarded as the kings of animation by making some of the most highly praised and highest grossing animated films. For the most part, they've been very consistent when it comes to releasing successful hit after successful hit. That is, except for one.
What?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Jonathan Bell Reviews. When it comes to Pixar's output, 2022 was another one of their worst years when they released Lightyear. In fact, before I get into our next review, let me take a moment to talk about its box office performance. What was meant to be Pixar's grand return to movie theaters ended up being a disaster. And here's several reasons why. Its budget was more than $200 million. And in spite of being tonally different compared to the others, audience weren't interested in checking out this Pixar film. Due to Disney's mishandling with their animated films with Pixar, as they would stream Soul, Luca, and Turning Red to Disney Plus, and it was out in competition with the Top Gun sequel, and reviews weren't as strong as the others. And as a result, it only made more than $118 million domestically, with a worldwide total of $226 million, which resulted Pixar to lose a huge amount of money of $106 million. It resulted in Pixar laying off 75 employees, including its director from Lightyear, Angus McLane. It's no wonder why its new CEO, returning CEO, Bob Iger, announced sequels to Inside Out and even Toy Story. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Elemental. First thing you might know is that it's made by the same director of The Good Dinosaur, Peter Sohn, who's also the voice of Emil and Ratatouille, Squishy in Monsters University, and Socks in the aforementioned Lightyear. And speaking of The Good Dinosaur, Peter Sohn was also in trouble with production with that film. From what I've researched regarding Elemental, this might not be the case. So, how do I feel about it? Was it a surprising step up from last year? Or is it going to continue the downward spiral of the kings of animation, Pixar? And another question is that, do I prefer this or The Good Dinosaur? Well, let's see. This all revolves around the world of Element City, where various natural elements like fire, water, earth, and wind have their own ways of getting around the city, but they have one rule, is that they cannot mix any certain elements for the most part. One of its trademark traits of Pixar, its world building. And I gotta say that it was really interesting to see these elements have their own differences, and revolves around the theme of racial division, and can be a little force with our two main characters. The relationship between the characters still is the heart of the film, like with Pearson, with Arlo and Spot. While it's more focused on world building, the heart of it is the characters. But the conflict, it's not so much to talk about, except like stopping a flood from reaching Fire City, Fire World. The world building is pretty neat, and the character relationships is interesting for the most part. though. Don't know why it didn't compel me that much, but it's just a minor nitpick. Overall, I say the story is decent at best. The animation, wow. Did Pixar really upgrades animation? One little fact of how this film was rendered in approximately 151,000 computers. There's a lot of attention to detail. It's like how, like with illumination, Pixar has really come a long way ever since Toy Story. Going back to a few examples, there were like a small amount of computers, but as each film is worked on, more computers grew. Like Toy Story had to render plastic, Monsters Incorporated had to render fur, and now Finding Nemo had to render water. Most difficult of it was like mostly the elements, especially fire. The Fire City people, the character designs, their outlines have that little flary feel to it, and the exterior of their bodies are really flashing when they walk around. And speaking of, when it comes to Amber's color change, it can really be fascinating to watch, like how there's purple when she tries to control her anger, and different shades of colors of the rainbow whenever she touches minerals, like those little details in the city, and that's quite interesting. For the water element, it's really mesmerizing to see the detail inside the water with all those tiny little fizzy bubbles and the ripples, like how they move. It's quite interesting. And for the wind, boy, they have that soft feel to it, fluffy when they move around. And as for like the earth, like mostly with trees or dirt or grass or whatever, they're mostly their normal CGI model selves. I think it's very creative to see various animation styles different from each other. Compared to The Good Dinosaurs, where the character designs are more cartoony and topped with the full realistic backgrounds, the animation here in Elemental is very varied for the most part. Now to the characters. There isn't much to say about the characters, but I'll start off with Ember. Ember is a female firewoman who can feel impulsive when others like talk bad towards her, and then lose her family try to make her cool her temper, and you can understand what she's going through. And as for the water guy, Wade, he starts out as weak, but as the film would evolve, he becomes more sympathetic and very curious of what will happen if they mix elements. And their relationship, it's what drives this film, despite their differences. The others, like Ember's family, including Bernie and Cinder. Bernie is more the protective father, and Cinder is the more caring mother who understands that the role of Element City, but she would do whatever it takes to understand Ember's love for Wade. And as for others like Gail, there's not much to say other than she's just like the Coach Cloud, but she can be impulsive as well like Ember, but is calm enough but there was not a lot of screen time for her. And Wade's family, there, I can sadly say that there was some potential into them, but they just show up at one time and that's it. So overall, the characters are rather a mixed bag. Have some compelling ones, some that only have a few moments of screen time, and a few that are mostly just there and to give the world life. Overall, I thought this film was fine, I guess. While the story and characters might have its shortcomings, the relationship between our mains, the varied styles of animation, and the dynamics between others really make up for it. So overall, I can recommend it a bit. Like, it's not another one of Pixar's greats, like with this decade's Onward or Lightyear, but I'd say it's on par with those films. Also, before this film began, there is a short film titled Carl's State, the final short film of Dog Days, a Disney Plus series based on Pixar's 29 Up. And I thought it was bittersweet watching it before, because while a bit of juvenile humor really held it back, it didn't stop me from holding back tears for the most part, as this would be one of Edward Asner's final performance as Carl Ferguson. And if you want to see for yourself, do it for him. And I don't normally do this for short films on my reviews, but I'm gonna give that short film, Carl's Day alone, a 9 out of 10 for being an amazing film. And may you rest in peace, Carl Ferguson. And now, for the movie itself, it leads me to one more thing. Which do I prefer, this or The Good Dinosaur? I honestly prefer Peter Sohn's The Good Dinosaur. While it does have its faults, like with the simple story and the cartoon character design and not much depth to the characters, the relationship between Arlo and Spot, the breathtaking background animation, and the journey of the relationship really make up for it. And there were quite a few moments that almost made me shed tears. And dare I say that it's one of Pixar's underrated gems, no doubt about it. And that's just my opinion. As for Elemental, I'm gonna have to give this a 7 out of 10 for being an enjoyable film. Well, join me next time and I'll be reviewing DreamWorks' Ruby Gilliam Teenage Kraken. I'm rather skeptical about it after DreamWorks' year prior with 2 good animated films that I endure. I don't know how this will play out, but I will give Ruby Gilliam a chance. So stay tuned.